Why are men able to express their emotions when they watch sports, but they really struggle in their relationships, especially in their marriages? Today we're going to talk about that, and we're also going to look at what is a biblical model of a way to express your emotions, and is Jesus the ultimate leader? And if he expressed his emotions, doesn't that give us men permission to do the same? Oftentimes men think it's a sign of weakness to share their emotions. When you're watching a sport like football and you're seeing hundreds of thousands of people crying and yelling, it's a pretty safe environment because everybody else is doing it. In the privacy of your home, when your wife asks you, "How are you doing?" that is a pressure-filled question, and it might not feel safe. Not because they're not safe, but because there's so many pressures put on men that essentially send a man a message that your worth and value is what you do and not who you are. So when your wife says, "Hey, how are you? I really want to know what's going on in your heart or what you're feeling," it doesn't feel like it's appropriate for the man to say, "I'm scared, I'm overwhelmed, I'm worried," because that could be viewed as a liability for that man providing for his family. But what did Jesus do in the Garden of Gethsemane, which I view as the ultimate form of leadership? Jesus did 5 things. First, he shared with his disciples, those closest to him. Next, he went and prayed in the garden. Third, he rose up. Fourth, he repeated that process 3 times. And fifth, it always ended with him rising back up. So, what did Jesus do? He shared what was going on with the people in his inner circle. He said, "My soul is overwhelmed to the point of death. I'm greatly distressed. Stay here and pray for me." He told them what he needed. Second, he goes in the garden by himself. He falls on his knees and he cries out that God would take this cup from him, but not his will, but God's be done. And then he rose back up. And as he rose back up, when those feelings came on him again, he repeated that process as many times as he needed to, but it always ended with him rising back up. And at the end, he says, "Rise up, my betrayer is at hand." And then Jesus goes forward to face what God has called him to do, to go die on the cross for our sins. And then we have the ultimate rise up when 3 days later he rises from the dead. What Jesus did in the Garden of Gethsemane was he gave us a model for how to confront overwhelming emotions. And a lot of Christian men do not consider what Jesus did. They take the social bribe, which I get it. It's very prevalent that it's weak to show your emotions, and that if you're in a leadership position, it causes a worry and concern for the people under you. That's not what happened when Jesus did it, though. Initially it did, but because Jesus rose back up and kept confronting the thing that was distressing to him, he actually modeled for his disciples how to do the exact same thing. And they did later on as they lived out their lives and focused on doing what Christ had called them to do. Men need to know it is okay and good to express your emotions. They're part of who you are. And when you don't express them, they're going to come out somehow. We're slightly topic change, but when you get to toxic masculinity and things like that, essentially that's telling you that man does not have any appropriate outlet to express his emotions. So he just stuffs them in, and then eventually they come out in the worst ways possible. Men need to be able to express their emotions. Christ gives us a model for how to do that appropriately that does not get you stuck in your feelings, but it acknowledges, confronts, and addresses them so that you can move forward in confidence as you go forward and do what God has called you to do, which is love, provide, take care of your family, you have a spouse that wants to help you. And if y'all are trying to have those conversations and struggle to do so, check out some of my other videos where I talk about misunderstandings that can occur in marriages, oftentimes totally unintentionally. Subscribe if this is helpful. Thanks.